Want to save hundreds of dollars and hours on end trying to collect what you want? Then welcome to the Pro Tape Collecting Guide. We're first going to talk about Tape 101 Protocol. We start this process by simply just looking at the tape. The first thing we should immediately inspect is if there is any weird, wonky white stuff on the tape reel. If there is, then that is a clear indication of mold. Mold is a big, huge, giant no-no for a few reasons. One, if there is mold on the tape, this will significantly damage the tape. It will become stickier, certain scenes will be damaged, and worst of all, if you put this inside your VCR, you will get your VCR dirty. And putting other tapes in there will not only damage those tapes, but increase the damage on your VCR that is already dirty. And if you're trying to resell a tape, then I got bad news for you. A moldy tape loses around 90 to 99% of its value just from that fact alone. It is possible to clean out the mold, but depending on the type of mold and certain conditions, it can be easier said than done, and it is an extremely tedious and difficult process that I highly recommend you not try. And chances are, whatever you got ain't worth going to a specialist to clean up. Trust me. Next, let's look behind the tape and look at these things that hold the film reel. Are they nice and white, or are they really, really yellow? This is a indication of how long it has either been used or put in the sun. The more yellow, the more of a red flag we're going to have, as even if it never had mold in it, the quality can get significantly damaged if it is staying in the sun or improperly stored. And unfortunately, in this situation, there is very little you can do. However, it isn't as damaging or as bad as having mold in the VCR. Finally, as Blockbuster would tell you after charging you 25 cents, be kind and rewind. How do we do that? Let's take a look at the film reel again. The more you see on the left, the closer it is to the beginning. If you see anything on the right, that means it is not fully rewound, so we have to rewind the tape. Your VCR should have an option to rewind the tape. If you have a remote, you can also do it that way. If you're bougie like me, you can also get a rewinder, which can rewind around 2.5 times faster than your average VCR. But do know that these things can be fragile and break easily. I unfortunately have to use my VCR because mine broke. To maximize the rewind speed on your VCR, press stop and then press rewind. You normally can't rewind from pause, and if you raw dog press rewind while the tape is playing, it will rewind much slower. Again, stop and press rewind. Sometimes you have to hold it, other times you just have to tap it. If the signal begins to get weak in any shape or form, then this could be an issue with tracking. Check your remote or on your VCR for any options to adjust the tracking, and you should be able to restore your original image quality. But sometimes, however, it could be you just have a bad tape, even if there isn't mold in it. Like I said before, check the bottom to see if the white reels are yellow or not. Now let's hypothetically say you think Funkos are unironically a good investment, and you put a moldy tape in your VCR, completely getting it dirty. Now what? Now it's time to clean up the VCR. I'm going to be extremely brief and simple here because this can get really wonky and complicated. In 90% of situations, what you probably did is just get this part dirty. This is an important piece that reads the tape and makes it progress, as shown here in this live demonstration. If this part is dirty in any shape or form, then chances are you are getting that entire tape dirty and damaging it in the process. Get a screwdriver and unscrew the top piece or whatever is holding the top piece so you can gain access to the brains of your VCR. Make sure your VCR is unplugged when you do this. You can try testing it with it open, but if this is your first time doing this, then I strongly recommend unplugging the VCR or having it off at least when you're doing this debug process. The simplest way to clean this part is by getting some rubbing alcohol and a blank sheet of paper that's plain, pouring a little bit of rubbing alcohol on that piece of paper, and slowly spinning the VCR head while connecting to the blank piece of paper. And be very careful touching any of this part around here, otherwise your grimy fingerprints will be damaging this. There are other tools you can use to clean your VCR, but whatever you do, do not use Q-tips. Q-tips will leave little hair follicles on your VCR and will damage it even further. Also, be very careful using old VCR head cleaners. These don't work like they used to, and putting them in can actually damage your VCR even more. There are, of course, newer ones that are more effective, obviously, but I would still tread very lightly using them. If you're still having problems after this, I would go to a specialist to get it more properly diagnosed. And if you don't have anyone like that around, then I would strongly recommend just getting another VCR. If you're on the hunt for a VCR, then the best ones are always the newer ones that have a DVD and VCR combo. These were released around the late 2000s and slightly later on, and they are just the best well built and will give you a slightly better quality and interface to work with. Now that we have a PhD in VHS engineering, we can get on to the fun stuff. Before you go to your local Goodwill and overspend hundreds of dollars on Black Diamond Disney VHS tapes because a blog told you to, I think it's important to know the class types of VHS tapes. Those three classes are slip covers, clamshells, and big boxes. Slip covers are the most common version you will see, where it is a cardboard box with the bottom open for you to slip out the tape nice and conveniently. Sometimes you will see versions that are completely encased where you have to open a little fold, but this is not as common as you think. Fun fact for slip cases, you have two variations of ways to actually properly store your slip cases, so you can avoid the issue of them slipping out. One are X-rental cases, which were squeeze push style cases. A lot of these come from X-rental stores. They did this in case some dummy like you or me grabbed the tape and dropped it and broke it, hence why they are sturdy and kinda hard. And the other one is the more modern example, which is the clean kind of slipcase, which you see here. Most collectors use these for their most rare tapes typically, to make sure they don't take any damage of any kind. Clamshells are pretty close to being as common as slip-ons, especially when it comes to the kids movies, like Disney movies, for example. These are, of course, your bigger, chunky plastic cases that really encase the VHS tape. Finally, you have big box, which is the rarest of the three, and while the prettiest looking of the three, is easily the most inconvenient, as it is just ripe for being damaged horribly. It is extremely crucial to know the existence of these three classes, because failing to do so can cost you a lot of money if you are not careful, and it can also make you a lot of money if you know what to look for. For example, Little Mermaid as a clamshell on VHS is so unbelievably common, I could probably find a brand new copy sealed inside my toilet. The slipcase variant, however, can make even the very rare tapes have a run for their money. It's also extremely important to know that rental companies back in the day would get slip-ons, rip them up, and put them in their own rental cases, which can either severely damage or increase the value of whatever your tape is. But most of the time, this is really going to hurt the value of the tape. The final tip I want to give you is that rare does not always equal expensive. A lot of people believe in the lie that because it is the most expensive, it is obviously the most rare, right? But this is far from true. I've made an entire 2-part series explaining why Cars, which is considered the rarest VHS tape according to TikTok, to be far from the rarest VHS tape, and I highly recommend you check it out. But in summary, if you see a tape that looks weird, wacky, and unique, I would always recommend grabbing it and checking it out. Some of my rarest and most favorite tapes I have gotten over the years are ones I have found at thrift stores and swap meets, and I haven't seen anything else like them, but I only found them because I went out of my way to grab them. And I wasn't vigorously looking through eBay to see how much it was worth. I just grabbed it because I thought it was cool. And that is paid off more than anything else. If you're only looking for the stuff that is expensive, then I got news for you. You're in the rat race, and you're probably gonna end up believing that Black Diamond VHS tapes are truly valuable. Collecting is a hobby first and foremost, and a business secondly. As your reward for being bored to death by me, here is a fun little bonus tip I like to call character select. On very specific VHS tape covers, if you look on one side, you may see one character, but if you look on the other, you will see another character or a different graphic. Sometimes they're boring and it's the same on both sides, but it really depends on who was doing the design for the case. This allows for a character select style situation to show off who you want to flex, or who you prefer, I should say. Thank you for watching, and hey, if you like tapes, check out these other videos I got for you.